ignore the squirrels, they're yelling at me. So I had to take this back apart under here because I have an issue with the coil not getting power, and I couldn't figure it out. Turns out that it's when I'm cranking, I'm losing power to the coil. So I was going to come straight under here to the ignition source and run off the original ones. And then I found all of this mess. Supposedly, or apparently, not supposedly, they had an aftermarket security system in this thing, which they have all this stuff tied into, and they had spliced into the actual wire that I need, and it goes to the security system instead of going to the signal for the coil. So I have to figure out all of this mumbo jumbo now. I cannot stand going behind somebody else's mess because, like I said, if I do it, I know the train of thought. If they do it, I don't know what the heck they're thinking. I don't know what their train of thought. I don't know what their purpose was for any of this. So obviously the security is not intact anymore because the fuse holder here is missing the fuse. Plugins are missing, but it's still spliced in all this, and I got to figure out how to get it out. All right, so I got the car started. The issue was the wire that I was using for a source for the 12 volts switch on. It was a switch on, but it wasn't power while cranking. So turning the key, it did not allow the coil to get power. So I tapped into the actual ignition box under the steering wheel. There's this red with like a greenish stripe. That one and the brown and pink go to like the TFI module and the coil. They go together into one down the line. This has all been bypassed, so I just tapped into that, and so it gets the ignition source straight from the key. So when I turn it, it gets power even while cranking, sends it to the relay, which sends it to the coil. Again, the car started, but it still sounds like something is out of time. It's got a nice lopey idle, but when I revved it, it wasn't very consistent. I did not have a timing indicator on the front of the engine. I just went across the road to a local junkyard and I pulled one. And then what I did is I polished this part and painted the rest black so it stands out. They already have the timing marked right here, so you can see it on here very clearly. Now that's 0, and then they remarked 10 right there very faintly. So the 10 is 10 degrees advance, which is, I guess, where they was targeting at. So what I can do is I can pull the number 1 plug now. I can rotate the engine until I feel that it's on the compression stroke. There's a cool trick where you put paper towel in there and you turn it, and it'll actually blow the paper towel out. I've seen some of them sound like a little gunshot going off, but you can also put your finger there and just feel. But I'll keep turning until it's at the 0. I'll lock down the distributor, make sure everything's good after I set the timing, and then we can revisit this little process. All right, so I did the trick where I put my finger over the hole, I turn it so air pushed out, and I got it set right at 0. Again, that's 10 advance. I think that's what they were shooting for. That might be something I'm gonna shoot for. But until now, it's set at 0, so at least now I know where it stands, and I can move forward with not guessing about the timing. All right, so I got it started again. It idled perfectly. It's on 0 degrees, dead center right now. Everything works great. I do have a leak. It was leaking right here. I don't know if the hose just wasn't tight enough or if this crossover is going to be an issue. I might have to get another crossover. It's not a huge deal. Car's not on the road yet or anything. I do have to set the time. I do want to do probably 10 degrees advance, and like I said, they already have that marked, so that'll be good. But the car ran out of fuel before I could get the timing light on it, and I haven't used my timing light in like 15 years, if that. And so I don't even know if the thing works, so I have to see if it works. But that'll be the next step, is getting fuel in it and getting this timing set to like I said, like 10 degrees. I think that'll be perfect. I don't need to go. My previous Fox body had an E-cam, and it actually seemed to do the best on, I think it was 14 or 16 degrees advance. So I'll have to see. Did start redoing another one of these. I like the way this one fits better, so I'm gonna go with that. Little odd and end things, but man, I'm getting closer and closer by the day. So I went to put the timing light on it. Car's running. Again, I wasn't recording because I was gonna get the procedure once I got the timing light and everything set up. Timing light flashed maybe 3 or 4 times, and then it quit on me. Like I said, it's, you know, 15, 20 years old, so I have to get another timing light. But in the meantime, I have an issue where the idle will slowly increase, slowly. Sometimes it dies, but it mainly just increases until I shut it off. And when I look at the screen, my TPS voltage is steadily climbing up. Now, it's not a huge percentage, but it'll be like 1.8%, 2.2%. It keeps jumping percentage of throttle, and it just keeps going. And as it's doing it, the engine RPM is idling up. I have the target idle, I want it around 750. It goes up to like 980 or more before I just say, okay, I'm shutting it down and trying to figure this out. But the TPS voltage seems to be the culprit at this point. It is still set at 0 degrees timing because I could not get it set with the issue. So, all right, so something else I just found out. I feel kind of silly, but I'm not used to this, but this has an adjustable regulator on it. I didn't know a vacuum hose went over the actual adjustment screw, and I don't know where they have this set at. I do not have a gauge, which I need to get, but until now, or until then, I have no vacuum going over that, so that could be some of the issue, because when you give it gas, it doesn't increase the vacuum, which increases the fuel pressure. So that is not the idle issue, though. The idle issue is in this. So I'm going to try to start this up real quick and show y'all it running and what it's possibly doing or not doing or whatever. So I have a leak in this crossover right here. It's shooting out about right there, which is causing a ton of water to drip down the back of the block. As you can see, it's created a pretty big puddle underneath here. So I do need a new crossover. As you can see, it started up, it idled good, it idled pretty high. It increased from 750 to about 1100. It stayed there. The IAC didn't give me any issues, but the AFR at idle was 11s, so it's pretty fat rich at idle. So need to get a gauge and get that adjusted. But that's where I stand right now. The car starts up, it does what it's supposed to do as far as normal idle and stuff. I just got to get these few little gremlins fixed. All right, so I had to take off the throttle body, mainly this bracket right here for the stuff, and I was able to take the hoses off and get to this fitting. And this is the pipe here. Now, a lot of people just bypass this, but I want to keep my heater because defrost. Here in Florida, it rains a lot, and for some reason, the heat is what defrosts it. But if you look down here by this bracket, right there, can you see that pinhole? That's what's causing all my issues. It's when the pressure builds up, this sprays out of here. It'll empty that radiator within, I don't know, 5 minutes. So I can't even let the car idle that long so I can start doing adjustments and things like that. So I have to get this fixed. I originally thought it was leaking at one point here, but I think it's just because the hose wasn't tight, because it's got this dip right here. But I cleaned up around the pinhole here, and yeah, it's a pretty decent sized hole. I don't know if I can get that brazed or not. I don't know if I'd trust JB Weld, but I'm getting this cleaned up. I gotta file that down so it don't cut the hose and get that cleaned up a little bit more. But this might be salvageable for a backup piece, just in case, if I can find somebody that can braze that, or maybe even weld it. I don't know. Alright, so that's where I'm pretty much stopping today. Got a bunch of little gremlins figured out, got some things done. So like I said, I need that coolant crossover. I need to get a vacuum line on the fuel pressure regulator, but I need to get a gauge on that fuel line so I know what the fuel pressure is at idle. I believe at idle I should be around 40, 42 psi, somewhere around there. I think that's the same on these cars that is the SN cars. But yeah, so I got to stop here until I can get some more stuff in and get some stuff done. Got kids yelling in the background from the neighbors. So this is where I'm ending it. Thanks for watching. This is Horseplay. I know it wasn't very exciting, but it's progress. So thanks for watching. We out.
I won't turn around, I done made it this far. Look back now, that wouldn't be too smart. Shoot for the stars even when it gets hard. Put my faith in the Lord with the 16 bars. I won't turn around, I done made it this far. Look back now, that wouldn't be too smart. Shoot for the stars even when it gets hard. Put my faith in the Lord with the 16 bars. I won't turn around, I won't turn around. No matter how far I go, I'll never come back.